Hello everyone. Today I would like to inform you of the general rules on how to be safe with a firearm and why it is important. Did you know that according to the New York Times, more than 30% of American households own guns, and so far in 2015 there has been 273 accidental shootings that have left someone injured or worse? The purpose of this speech is to teach everyone how to be safe when handling a firearm, and when you're around someone who is handling a firearm, that they can be safe as well and avoid any accidents. I've grown up with guns in my household my entire life, and my parents always taught me the importance of gun safety. Also, this past August I took a class to get my concealed carry so that I learned a lot more in that class as well. Some of the main points of this speech are the rules for handling this gun safely, rules for using a gun safely, and rules for storing a gun safely. I would like to begin with talking on how to safely handle a gun. The NRA or National Rifle Association teaches us three basic rules that you want to remember when handling a gun. They are the following. Always keep a gun pointed in a safe direction. This here is my gun, and when you're at the range, you always want to keep it pointed downrange, or if you're in a home like this, pointed at the ground, or if you're outside, either at the ground, well, mainly at the ground. Even if you point at the sky, what goes up must always come back down. It is always easier when you have a long gun such as a rifle to keep it pointed in a safe direction because you can see the muzzle much more easily than seeing the muzzle on this gun. You want to be especially careful with pistols because of that, because it's much easier just to move them in any direction and not know where it's going. The next main rule is to always keep your finger off of the trigger. I don't know how well you can see, but you want to always keep your finger along the slide straight because this will drastically decrease the amount of misfires that you would have, because if your finger's not on the trigger, 90% of the time nothing's going to happen. The next thing is you want to keep it unloaded. See, you want to always check the clip to make sure it's unloaded. Then you also want to check the slide to make sure there's nothing in the chamber. Sorry about that. There's nothing in there as well. You never want to look down the end of the barrel because obviously if something goes off, your head's right there. Next are 7 rules you want to follow when using your gun. When you're at the range or shooting outside, even in the backyard, if you're shooting at the woods, you want to make sure you know what is beyond the woods, such as neighbors' houses or kids playing or things like that. And even if you're in a self-defense situation and you point your gun at the intruder or whoever, you want to make sure that there's not a wall with your family on the other side of it. Where I'm at right now, I'm in the basement, so I know that beyond that wall is a concrete wall. Behind me is a concrete wall, so I can point in any direction. As long as there's no people, it's safe. Next, you want to know if it's safe to operate. You want to read the owner's manual so that you know how to use it properly and what all the parts of your gun are and how they move. You also want to know how to clean it properly so that you don't mess up any of the internal functions when you're trying to clean it. Alright, next thing is you want to make sure you use the correct ammo. This gun is a .40 caliber, so this bullet is a .380, so this would fit in here not very well, but you don't want to know what could happen if it misfires or something like that. So you always want to use the proper bullet like this, make sure it matches what's on the gun, it goes in properly, and it's all good. When you're at the range, you always want to wear eye protection. This is just a sample of my eye protection, but I could also use my glasses like I'm wearing right now. As well as eye protection, you want to wear ear protection. These ones right here are noise canceling. You can turn them on, and once you hear a noise over a certain decibel, it blocks it out. These are more high-tech, but even something just like these little foam ones work just fine, because if you've ever been around a gun going off, you know how loud they are. They can damage your ears pretty well. And as well as your eyes, because once the bullets eject, they just fly everywhere pretty much. Once you're shooting or at the range or in any situation that you have your gun, never use alcohol or drugs, because if you use either of those, it can greatly impair your judgment and increase the risks of accidents greatly. The National Shooting Sports Foundation added, "You never want to rely on the safety mechanism of the gun." This gun does have a safety, which is right here, but it's mechanical, so anything can fail. It'll still cock, but the trigger won't go off. You can't pull it. Right. Lastly, I would like to talk about how and where you should be storing these guns so that they're safe for you and everybody around you. Especially if you have little kids. You want to make sure that your guns are locked up at all times, no matter what, as well as your ammo. Because little kids can get curious, and if they have a hammer or like a screwdriver, they can set off one of these rounds just by hitting the firing mechanism on the back of it. And that in itself could greatly injure somebody. Also, when you're storing your guns, you want to make sure they're in a cool, dry place. Where I'm at right now in the basement is perfect because I have a safe in the closet over there, and it keeps all the water out, keeps all the humidity out, and nobody can get in it besides me. You want to make sure that only the authorized people that are supposed to be using the guns are the only ones that can access them. Okay. Now, just to recap everything that I've gone over, I went over the rules for how to properly handle a gun. Mainly, always you want to keep it in a pointed direction that is safe and nobody there, obviously. Then I talked about the rules on how to follow when you're using your handgun. The most important is to keep your finger off the trigger. Just keep your finger straight on the frame rail here. That way, if it's not on the trigger, it can't go off 99% of the time. And lastly, when you're storing your guns, make sure that you're the only one that can get to them. And even all your ammo, guns, everything is locked up in a safe, in a block box, anything that cannot be opened besides anybody but you. And a lot of people think that guns are the problem and that guns are dangerous in themselves. And they are, but in fact, they're really not dangerous themselves. It is when inexperienced people with bad intentions, or they just don't know how to use the guns, get a hold of them and ammo, that's when they become very dangerous. Guns themselves are not dangerous, it's the people who use them wrongly are dangerous. Okay. And that's my speech. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you all learned something today.